Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan is here from the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms and their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. We'll get some final takes and thoughts on the Eagles' win at the Bengals. First time they ever won in Cincinnati. We'll take a look at how it was done and how they got the job done against this Bengals team that, hey, they were an underdog here. They were a 2.5-point dog when this game kicked off. They end up winning the game by 20 going away, Adam. We'll get some final thoughts on that. But, yeah, they were 2.5-point dog going into this game. So some people were surprised, at least, by the way they played.
Yeah, I was of our crew. It was me, Greg Cosell, and of course, Mosher. I was the one person of the three of us to not only pick the Eagles to cover the number, but I picked them outright, and I also got the player of the game right. At least I think he was. Everybody could have their star of the game. Cooper DeJean also played well, but my star of the game coming into the game, I thought that Jalen Hurts would rise up, kind of match Burrow. We could argue that he outplayed Burrow. We'll get into that in a second. But, no, this is a very good win, Mike. There's no question about it. It's a game they really needed. Look, this is not Major League Baseball. Yes, this is an out-of-conference game, but this is one of only 17 games. I mean, again, this counts against their record, tiebreakers and so forth, and common opponents. So, look, this is a really good win. Didn't start off well, but I would tell you the key to this thing is the defense after a terrible first drive, getting out, obviously, on the field for too long, over 10 minutes, holding the Bengal offense to a field goal on that second drive, Mike. That was massive. Very much, it was kind of like the Green Bay game week 1 where they drove right down the field, but they held the Packers to 2 field goals.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot there. I mean, they go right down the field. Cincinnati does 17-play, 10-minute drive. They scored. It feels like that's easy. I mean, that was what you thought you might see is Burrow just working his way, and then they able to kind of make their adjustments and keep them out of the end zone. Really only had that the one touchdown a little bit later on in the game. But, man, 17-17, they get the touchdown to go 24-17, and it's off the passing game. That big throw from Hurts to Smith. Only throw the ball 20 times, but what you see from the quarterback and the passing game?
Yeah, I thought, Mike, this game, see, stats can lie. It's always what the tape tells you, or even if you're watching off TV, what can you glean? So for the folks who just watch the game Sunday, you should be able to tell that Hurts did not move unnecessarily like he has in the past, where the play is to the left and he looks at it and then he decides to not take it and move and tries to go to a secondary option or a third, which is a mistake. He didn't really do that in this game. He was very decisive. I like that. I was impressed by that. Very complete game in terms of that. Now, was he under pressure? No, not very much. The Eagles' offensive line, Fred Johnson, and I'll include him in kind of the players of the game. Fred Johnson, a former Bengal, who actually went against Trey Hendrickson. He was with them 1 year with the Bengals, and apparently the two guys are friendly. Fred talked about it after the game. Fred Johnson held his own. That was that was a stunner to me. I thought Trey Hendrickson, number 91, would kind of have his way, but he didn't. Fred Johnson really handled himself well. He's now had 11 NFL starts, Mike. Did a really good job there. Yeah, he's way better at left tackle than he is right. I think we kind of knew that going in. But overall, the offensive line was really good. In fact, Mike, that's another thing I want to make before we get to the defense. Their offensive line has been terrific in pass pro this season, and that's something we really haven't talked enough about. Their offensive line, Mike, despite all the injuries they've had, they very rarely had everybody together. They've been terrific this season.
Yeah, no, their offensive line did a great job in the game the other day. Fred Johnson, as you mentioned, he would be the guy you were worried about. They also had Tyler Steen in at the right guard position. And Steen, I think Moshe brought it up yesterday on Football at 4, is really they haven't missed a beat with Steen and Becton there. Those two guys have really played almost equally.
The only bad game they had, it was bad. It was against the Bucs. That was a disaster. But overall, all the other games, they've been really good. So you got to feel good at the direction of the offense, even with the guys missing on the offensive line. Without Goddard, Grant Calcaterra is a really good athlete, really good running after the catch. That is his big deal in getting an open space. We're seeing a little bit more trust from Hurts to Calcaterra. That's really good. Jack Stahl had the block of the game in terms of a tight end. I mean, that on the touchdown, it was just down to Devontae Smith. It was crazy. Jack Stoll's been a good story. as we reported at the time, he had an offer from the Eagles and the Giants. He chose the Giants because he thought he would have a chance at a greater role because he knew that Darren Waller was going to retire, and Jack never wound up getting that role that he thought, and he got cut, and he came back to the Eagles, and the Eagles are sure glad they got him because he's playing the inline role, and Grant Calcaterra now is the pass catcher until Goddard comes back.
Yeah, the other one thing on the offense, too, I mean, I don't know if that, I mean, obviously people took notice. They asked Sirianni about it yesterday, and Kellen Moore today. They went under center a lot more, 7 times on the final drive of the last 12 plays. Ben Van Sumeren was in on that drive 3 times, so they are evolving the run game, too.
Yeah, and Mike, this is important because it's great for play action. What I'd like to see it, Mike, more, though, if you really want to spin it the way it needs to look, is it needs to be a staple when you come out. And the best play action, talking to coaches about it, is when your quarterback is under center. It's much harder when the quarterback's standing up in a shotgun.
Yep.
And that has to happen for this to really look like the offense Kellen Moore wants. Because Kellen, I've talked to guys who work with him in Dallas. He wants tempo. They're doing tempo. Jalen likes it. Kellen likes under center. They're doing a little bit more of that. That's great. He wants motion. They're doing a little bit of that. We're not looking like a true Kellen Moore offense, but we're making movement toward it, and that's a good sign.
All right, let's look at the defense, which, obviously the play of the game is the Cooper DeJean spot there. The rookies have stepped up. Cooper DeJean makes that 4th and 1 open play, and then they get 3 after that to give it a 2-score game. But that's a huge play in the game. But it's not just the rookies. Some of the new players are stepping up. They only got 1 sack, Nolan Smith. They had 5 QB hits. So this defense feels like even without the sacks, they were able to make some plays that got some turnovers.
Yeah, Mike, one of the things that we have criticized over the last year is the lack of player development. Because I know Sirianni, we were told when he interviewed for the Eagles for the job in 2021, is that he told their front office and Jeffrey Lurie that he puts a big emphasis on player development. We know about that developmental period after practice, but this last year, the younger players have not been developing as much as we thought they should, and boy, now you're really seeing it. So Cooper DeJean, it's only been 3 starts. He's terrific. I know that long-term the Eagles see him as an outside corner. I'd stop and say, you know what? Let's just see in this nickel role. It's not just your nickel role, Mike. He's almost playing he's playing corner. He's playing nickel. He's playing linebacker. He's doing all sorts of different things here, Mike, in this nickel role. So he's been terrific. Nakobe Dean is getting better, a 3rd-year linebacker. He's improved. There's no question about it. Playing with much more discipline. They're getting him to go downhill more. Jalen Carter is getting better. He's playing better. We know Moro Jomo has been a nice story of development. Thomas Booker's come out of nowhere, a guy that Texas didn't want and drafted. He's given them really good snaps. Ben Van Sumeren with his fullback role, special teams role. You like that he's developing. Nolan Smith is getting a little bit better. He's nowhere near where he needs to be, but he's given them good snaps. Quinyon Mitchell, Mike, also playing very well. This has been a good story. People around the league were not sure how well he would do year 1. Well, he's been terrific. Isaiah Rodgers, by the way, who they, as you know, sat out last season, Mike, he had a great play. He caused the interception on the deflection. What a great play that was. He will fill in for Darius Slay if Slay can't go. So you got that, Mike. But this story, I want to talk about development. Zach Bond playing inside backer for the first time in his career, Mike. Like, no team saw this. So what we reported at the time was the Eagles were going to line him up as an inside backer and have him be an edge rusher. Well, guess what? He's only done edge 1 game. That was against his former team, the Saints. Not doing the edge stuff. So now he can do it. He's rushed a little bit, but no, he's an inside backer here. You know, they wanted him to do a little bit of the Van Ginkel stuff. He's really not doing that. So what a story he's been. So you got to give Howie Roseman credit, obviously. I mean, he's the general manager, but you also got to give the coaches credit. We mentioned Fred Johnson. Jeff Stalin deserves a lot of credit. Mekhi Becton, I know he's hurt with a concussion. Calcaterra, give Jason Michael, their tight ends coach, Mike, credit. And Jack Stoll reemerging here as a wide tight end. Kenny Gainwell's improved, Mike. This is really, and I'm glad that Bobby King was given the inside backer coach a shout-out today by Vic Fangio, Mike. We got to give the coaches credit. For much as we gave them heck last year for the lack of development, they're doing a really good job, and it's about time that some of these younger players started developing. They really are.
Yep, they got some impact. Nolan Smith with the big play from Cooper DeJean. Quinyon Mitchell played well. You mentioned some of the other guys. Defense growing. We'll see. They play Jacksonville this week, then Dallas. Washington will be a big challenge. By the way, if you look at the Washington schedule, Adam, they don't have a lot of losable games left on that schedule. So this is going to be a pretty interesting race here down the stretch. Let's go around the NFC East. Those are the Philly four: Jacksonville, Dallas, Washington, the Rams. Commanders play at the Giants, Pittsburgh, at Philly, home against Dallas. So are the Commanders in this for the long haul?
They are. Look, they're way better than I thought, because you can only judge a team by what their roster looks like, and you talk to people around the league who evaluate the roster, and a lot of people that I talked to agreed that this is going to be like a 7, maybe an 8-win team if the quarterback was really good. Well, they're 6-2. They've got a half-game lead on the Eagles because the Eagles have not played their 8th game yet. Washington has not had their bye. So, yeah, it's interesting because the Eagles have to play. They host the Steelers. Steelers, by the way, are on their bye. They are 6-2. The Steelers are looking for receiver help. But the bottom line is, Mike, it's a 2-horse race in the NFC East. I'm surprised. I thought it would be Dallas, to be honest with you. Dallas, a really bad home team, no question about it. Dallas' schedule, holy smokes, Mike. At Atlanta, who's probably going to win that division because of the Bucs' problems at receiver with the injuries in their secondary. Then they host the Eagles. They haven't won a home game since last year. They've lost their last 4 home games, including the playoff game where they got blown out. They host the Texans, who unfortunately lost Stephon Diggs for the season, and at Washington. Good luck. Good luck. Yeah. I don't see a win there.
Yeah, I think Dallas is in some trouble. As you mentioned, the next 4. I mean, Houston did lose Stephon Diggs for the rest of the season. They won't have Nico Collins likely for that game, but they're still a pretty good defensive team. This 4-game stretch for Dallas, I mean, man, if they don't win at least 2 of these games, they're probably done.
They're done.
Yeah,
they won't be a wild card. And then the Giants. Well, the lowly Giants, you probably will start trading players away, don't they? Just lost to Pittsburgh last night. They're 2-6. Like Darius Slayton.
Played tough last night. They hung in there.
They did. No, they had a chance to tie it late, but Daniel Jones wasn't real happy. They host the Commanders this week. They're at Carolina, who's clearly packing it in. They traded Deontay Johnson today.
Yep.
They host the Bucs, who are beat up, and they're at Dallas. But yeah, Daniel Jones is so inconsistent. He had some good throws last night. He had throws he's like to take back. They're an absolute mess. You know, Mike, one thing before we move on, one of the reasons why the Eagles most years are good, and sometimes are better than good, they're very good to elite, it's because they address the offense and defensive lines, particularly the offensive line. You would think it's so simple. The formula is dominating on the lines. I say this every year, and it kind of bothers me. Like the Commanders, I get it, they're as good as they are, and their offensive line is really overachieving. They got to get better players to help Jaden Daniels. They need help at receiver as well. I know they're looking at the receiver market, but you can't win if you don't address their offensive line. The Giants' offensive line is not very good. And one more note, Mike. First time we've ever done this tonight on Patreon. Jason Avant joins us, patreon.com/InsideTheBirds to sign up. This is incredible. So Jason's with us from 7:30 to 8 on Zoom, and then Greg Cosell, 8 to 8:30. Folks would give Greg hell for what he had to say about Jalen last week, but he was just telling the truth. He has no hate in his heart. Jalen's tape was bad against the Giants, and I look for. I haven't talked to Greg this week, so I have no idea what he thought of Jalen's tape. I thought it was good. I watched a little bit of it about a couple hours ago. I know Jeff's seen it, but the bottom line is Avant and Cosell tonight back to back. Patreon.com/InsideTheBirds to sign up.
All right, there you go. Football at 4 on a Tuesday with Adam Caplan. Go around the NFC East and recap that Eagle win. We'll do it again on Friday with Adam tomorrow. Jeff's here and Andrew on Thursday. Thank you, bud.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. And as you heard, their Patreon show tonight, you can check that out, Inside the Birds platforms. As always, here on the Sports Bash, Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.